If you look at the bars, that's the increase in autism. If you look at 1990, 1992, 1994, it's basically nothing. In 1996, that's the year that Percy talked about, when GMOs were introduced, and the majority of GMOs actually Roundup Ready. They're resistant to glyphosate. And at that time, you can see this exponential increase in autism in children in the United States, and it tracks precisely with the increase of glyphosate in farming, which also means that basically more and more people that eat the normal American diet are getting glyphosate. On top of that, some people say, well, correlation isn't causation. Correlation, as I said, is 1 in 10,000 that are not linked. But there are good studies that show why. This is a very important study here, where what they found is that glyphosate stops the normal development of nerve cells. So if you look at the control, which is the normal cells, and look at the glyphosate ones, you see that they do not develop the same. And we're going to talk about diseases like autism, and in adults, Alzheimer's, senile dementia, which are going through the roof as well. What actually happens is that the nerves don't actually grow properly. In the case of all of us, our greatest collection of nerves is in our brain. And particularly for children, that's when they're developing their brain. The brain really doesn't stop developing until about in your 30s. And what we're seeing here is that the normal development of neurons in the brain is being affected by the amounts of glyphosate that are permitted in our food as safe. So, once again, we're going to have a look at things like senile dementia. The green line shows it was going up for a whole range of reasons, but look how when glyphosate comes in 1996, it lifts exponentially. You look at Alzheimer's, which is a major disease at the moment. Probably all of us know people who have got Alzheimer's. In many cases, these people will be in their 40s and 50s. And you can see once again that it is a significant cause. Probably not the only cause, but it is a very significant cause. Cancer. As most people know, the International Agency for Research into Cancer, the World Health Organization cancer body, gave glyphosate the second highest category. And that's called, it is probably carcinogenic to humans. What that means, it definitely causes cancer in animals. It's a carcinogen. There's limited data on humans, but that data is pretty good. For instance, it's strongly correlated with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now that's a disease. In the 1940s, 50s, it was one of the rarest cancers in the world. Now, most of us will know somebody who's got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is common as breast cancer and prostate cancer. So, I just want to show here, this is some of the other studies that we did looking at bladder cancer in humans. And once again, you can just see how bladder cancer was actually going backwards until GMOs, and now it's skyrocketing. Thyroid cancer. Thyroid is one of our master glands. It controls so many functions. The green line shows that thyroid cancer was tracking level. And then you see it suddenly takes off. Same years ago, 1990, mid-1990s, when glyphosate is used in GMOs. The blue line there is the increase in GMOs, and the red line is the increase in glyphosate, because most of this glyphosate is used on GMOs. This is, once again, this is Stephanie's work. She did this with Dr. Anthony Sampson. I regard this as one of the most important studies. What glyphosate does, it actually suppresses the cytochrome 450 or P450 enzymes in amino acids. This is a group of enzymes in the body that are responsible for many of our metabolism or biological pathways. It's also very responsible for the enzymes that break down toxins in the liver. The liver is the organ that breaks down toxins. What glyphosate does it stops the normal processes of breaking down toxins, so that it means whatever levels we're getting in our diet, our bodies aren't responding to normally like they should. So I just want to show some of the metabolic diseases at the moment. Obesity is a massive problem around the world. And it never used to be. Most of us remember a time when seeing a lot of obese people was fairly rare. Now it's everywhere, and you can see that this increase in obesity has happened and tracks the same as glyphosate and GMOs. It's not a coincidence. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is linked to people with obesity. The same factors. It suddenly takes off. Intestinal infections is another one. This sort of tracked at a fairly low level, and once again, it increases exponentially. Lipoprotein, which is basically do with the cholesterol in the body, is a very important one for protecting from heart disease and other long-term diseases. And you can see there how that is now being disrupted by glyphosate. The last thing I want to end on is Professor Seralini's long-term study. And this is the first time ever in this study where rats were actually tested over a lifetime. Most times it's about 90 days. And most people know how Monsanto basically tried to put pressure on the first magazine or first journal to get it withdrawn. But it was republished. And what that found is really important, that suddenly when they looked at the rats, about 76% of the ones that were fed glyphosate had altered parameters, kidney related. And once again, look at, that's rats, now look at people. You actually see kidney diseases were falling in the United States until glyphosate was used. And look, it tracks again. Like I say, if they're not linked, it's a 1 in 10,000 chance. So what I want to end on is to say here that glyphosate has actually been linked to many diseases. It's widespread in the environment, in food, and in our bodies. Children are now exposed to it before they are born. We know it's actually in semen, we know it's in the follicle fluids, it's everywhere. It goes across the placenta. And we know that this increase in glyphosate is largely due to Roundup Ready GMOs. Anyway, those graphs I showed you, if it is a coincidence, the glyphosate is not doing it. That is 1 in 10,000. But I think the most important thing is now we actually have a large body of science, hundreds of published papers that show the biological pathways how glyphosate causes these diseases. And what I really want to end on, Renata talked about, is the right to know. When the World Health Organization gave glyphosate the second highest rating for cancer, the European Food Safety Agency, EFSA, said, no, we don't think it does cause cancers. So when the World Health Organization questioned us and said, how did you come to that? They said, oh, we have studies that Monsanto has given us, but you can't have. And what is happening here with, the regulators are using non-peer-reviewed science that is, I'm getting the wind up, so I'm finishing now. It's using non-peer-reviewed science, that is commercial confidence. We cannot see it, we do not have the right to know. The science that is published, the gold standard in peer-reviewed journals, says the opposite. It says that glyphosate is one of the worst and most dangerous chemicals we've ever seen in agriculture. It makes DDT look like a picnic. So I'll end with that saying thank you.
There is an epistemological and political dispute between two types. I don't like to be atheistic, but two types of science when we discuss environmental and health impacts of dangerous chemicals. On the one hand, the objective and supposedly neutral science that has an important regulatory function, used by the state, the public institutions, and international organizations like the World Health Organization, with their idea that it's possible and important to define safe threshold based on studies mainly made by industries or artificial laboratory conditions. On the other hand, we say that we need to develop other type of science, with the whole consciousness that we can develop with the whole body, with the whole feelings. And this is a contra-hegemonic type of science, more precautionary, that tries to defend life, the environment, and the health, especially for affected and more vulnerable communities. And there are many examples of this dispute around the world. Brazil is not the only case, but these groups with the contra-hegemonic scientists have been accused by the industries and their allied scientists and governmental institutions. And some scientists, they are not few, unhappy, that we are developing some type of junk science, because we recognize very important moral issues and also knowledge, other types of knowledge and cultures. So to end my speech, I need to end, right? I would like to finish speaking about a very important issue. This is about double standards, because I'm coming from Latin America. It could be from Africa, from Asia, I don't know. And it is important, especially in this moment that we live in Brazil, an illegal, illegitimate, and immoral government that recently this government is producing major social, environmental, and public health setbacks. Unfortunately, the political situation has been deteriorating very quickly, rapidly in the last months, with the impeachment of President Dilma Rousseff and the new conservative government. And several social conquests are at this moment at risk. This requires a broad international solidarity effort in order to prevent more tragedies. The use of pesticides and transgenics is only one between many other examples. There is a trend to make more flexible this legislation, more and more flexible the legislation, and also the regulatory institutions related to agrotoxics in Brazil and the whole Latin America. So we can postpone to the banishment of some agrotoxics, possibly about glyphosate. I have a paper analyzing this time between when a pesticide or agrotoxic was banned in US or in Western Europe, and then 10, 20 or more years after in Brazil. So I would like to finish saying that double standard is a very typical pattern in Brazil and in Latin America. Only to say that between the 30 most consumed agrotoxics in Brazil, 10 are banned in Europe. Monsanto have 5 agrotoxics with 3 active ingredients that are not allowed to be used in the European community. And Bayer together with Monsanto, will be morally what? this junction, this union. Well, Bayer alone have 113 different pesticides, but 25 of them have active ingredients banned in Europe. So because of them, our campaign and the social movement demands the banning of agrotoxics that have been prohibited in other countries, as well as the prohibition of aerial spraying that affects so many communities in Brazil. So thank you very much.
My question really is how much more evidence do we, as consumers, need and the policymakers? Because it's both ends. And I think you can ask yourself here in this room, I mean, we're probably thinking in the same direction, but you actually always do what you need to do when you are shopping? Okay. I mean, if we don't change the way we actually behave, nothing will change. It's not only, well, we can go vote or not, we don't choose our leaders, maybe there are some out there which I think are worth voting for, but in the end, I have come to the conclusion that the farmers will grow what people buy. And you have a choice. Still. But that choice is going away faster and faster by the day. Because exactly what we've been hearing, mergers, bigger companies taking over not only the production, but everything from production all the way to consumption. Soon as in your plate, you won't have a choice. But I think we need to vote with our feet, with our wallet, make sacrifices, it will be easy. If not, things will not change. Now, what I heard here, not that I didn't know some of it, but you always learn things. What was not mentioned is that glyphosate started as a pipe cleaner. Now we're eating pipe cleaner. The stuff you used to put in your drain, you clean the drain. I mean, how did that work? Just as, right? I mean, so we have to come to our senses. Now the whole thing is that we don't need that stuff to begin with in our fields. I've been doing research long enough to know that we can produce enough biodiverse and nutritious food with natural methods. I mean, there are many organic farmers in this world, agroecologists, permaculture, name it. I mean, there's many of these different types of agriculture which actually don't use, don't need chemicals of any sorts. From only the pesticides. We didn't talk much about fertilizer, but that just as bad. Nitrogen, I mean, this again also affects us because we eat it, and then what happens when glyphosate goes on top, for example? I don't know. Maybe these are all kind of synergies created in our bodies. We have even no idea, and all for things we actually do not need. For example, Andre mentioned it. When I started my career, I went to Africa to deal with a pest problem. The first line of action then, 1979, was use pesticides and some of the worst kind. It was systemic insecticides, but insecticide you apply, you put it into the soil. The plants pick it up to the roots, goes inside and kills the bugs who suck the sap. Because those insects, mealybugs, you couldn't really spray them because they have a protective coat which makes them sort of immune to sprays. So you had to actually put it into the ground, into the roots. And guess what? The plant was cassava and people eat the root. No waiting period because people go and pick up the root every day, one part here and there. Not so that you, like we do in other places, we spray and then we wait 3 months or 2 weeks or something, whatever the pesticide may be. Not that that makes any difference, because we heard that those residues level, which have been totally made up by the industry, don't mean anything to begin with. But still, the industry and governments, at the time I started to try to control this insect, were promoting the use of systemic insecticide. Anyway, I came into the picture, and I was one of the lucky ones who had studied biological control, who was then able to apply it. Because most of my colleagues who studied ended up actually in those companies down in Basel, I'm from Switzerland, or somewhere else in St. Louis or wherever those chemical companies are. And we controlled, to make the story very short, many of you probably know it, that in 12 years, with $20 million, we solved the problem from Senegal, across Africa, all the way to Mozambique. This is an area which is 1.5 times the United States, for example. The problem was resolved permanently without any drop of chemicals. The control still goes on today. Because what we do, and that's exactly where the point I want to make here, is we use nature. Nature gives us all the tools to deal with the problems we create. Because when we do agriculture, this is an intervention into the ecosystem. No matter how careful you do it, it's an intervention. It will create reactions. So we have to do this very carefully, right? And what we have to do very carefully is to make sure that we don't disturb, for example, the natural pest control, which is given by nature. Biological control exists there. Sure, if you just have to spray, we destroy most of that natural control. So we need to actually reorganize our system where we want to grow our crops so that it takes care of itself. And that's what we call ecosystem services. Ecosystem services are, for example, pollination. I mean, the bees are out there. The honeybees is one of many thousands which we have and need for our food. About 60% of what you have in your plate, and actually the good stuff, needs bees. If not, there won't be anything in your plate except starch, corn or whatever, potatoes. So again, is an example. Another example of what nature has given us is the cycling of nutrients. Because what we need is a healthy soil, that we have healthy plants, healthy animals, and healthy people. Now what do? We destroy the nutrient cycle by applying nitrogen fertilizer, a shortcut for big production, and then we create another chain reaction of problems in the soil. Plants grow fast, full of water, a lot of proteins, and the bugs go like mad. Okay, here we are. Then what do? Oh, because the local natural enemies can't cope with that. So we spray, and we just add to the problem. You see? So again, we have invented long ago how to deal with all these problems naturally. But nobody makes money with ecosystem services. This is the problem. So the industry said, let's get rid of all that stuff, and we're going to replace it with something we're going to sell you. We're going to sell you fertilizer, we'll sell you pesticides, we're going to sell you herbicides, and any size you want. I mean, and that's where we are today. It's all about business, short-term thinking, and the examples are exactly there to see every day, mergers here, mergers there, get bigger, and become so big that you avoid the accountability we need. There's no accountability for big companies. They own the government. They own everything. That's why we are here. We're going to make sure that Monsanto becomes accountable and that everybody else in the same direction is accountable. We can't take this any longer. And that's why we are here and trying to really make some order, I think, in the world. All right. Also not forget, we talked about seed this morning, about biodiversity. Again, when you talk biodiversity, you are very quickly in the area of natural pest control. Because what's interesting is when the farmers over the years, they have been selecting plants and having all these varieties out there, what they selected, maybe not even knowingly, they selected plants who can actually not only resist insects and diseases, but they can actually actively fight them. And this evidence has come out in the last 2 years because now we have all kinds of very interesting tools to look at what's floating around, the molecules. I mean, yeah, we can take the hair and see what's in the air. But there's all tools the size of a phone today where you can measure what's in the air. What happened is that some scientists tried to figure out why are certain plants not attacked by insects what happens is that they actually have volatiles, like odors, which they send out, which push away the pest insects and attract the beneficials. Now, all this modern plant breeding has never looked into this. So, when we compare the modern maize variety with one of the farmer's variety, guess what? The farmer's variety out-yielded that hybrid or even GMO because it can defend itself. They can't move around or move away from the pest, but they can put out odors and then scents which will basically protect them. So again, you see, we have accumulated in those seeds a huge amount of power. And that power is getting lost again by the minute. Find out, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to take out that characteristic of creating maybe a volatile and then make a GMO, which they're going to sell back to the farmer who actually have selected for all these traits over the years. So again, you can see how perverse this whole system is. It's totally perverted. And I think again, we know about it, we have a huge amount of evidence, and I think it's time that we use it. And I'm getting older, I get frustrated, as you can see here, and I think we need to act. Because if you don't do it now, time's running out. Climate change is coming, and only organic agroecology, regenerative agriculture will save us from climate change. If we have an agriculture which produces more emissions and climate inducing greenhouse gases, how are we going to solve the problem? Our agriculture, the one we actually promote, and the food system which goes with it all the way to the consumer, will actually reverse climate change. And we need that, again, to survive. It's not only all the chemicals, that's one thing. The other one is all what we have done to our planet. And I think that we have the solutions. If we work on it, and if we get rid of the Monsantos and co, I think we shall be on the right track, so that our children still have a world. Because again, Mars is not really an option for all of us. Thank you.